Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing everything that I read in the first part of 2021. So in total I read and two webcomics. So I'm going to split this wrap up into my worst rated books that I read to the best rated ones. So the first one I'm going to be talking about is The Princess Trap by Talia Hibbert. Now this one is a contemporary romance about Cherry, our main character, who gets involved with a prince. And it all goes from there. This one has a very rom-com style tone to it, which was really fun. There were some really fun secondary characters and the banter was really cute as well. However, I thought that later in the book they touched on more deeper topics like abuse, and it kind of clashed with the comedic tone of the book. I kind of wish it had stayed comedic instead of trying to force more deeper topics into it. The topics of abuse were important. I just felt that it kind of clashed with the tone and the story of the first half of the book. So there was that. It was fun, but it wasn't memorable. So I ended up giving this book a 75, which is what I tend to give most romance books anyways, to be fair. The next book I'm going to be talking about is actually a webcomic that I read on Webtoon. It's called Suitor Armor. And this one was so cute. It's about a Lucia, a lady in waiting, who ends up falling in love with an enchanted metal of armor. Yeah, it's kind of weird. At the same time, there's this kind of whole mystery of humans versus fairies in a big medieval fantasy setting. And this one is so wholesome. The artwork is very vivid, very engaging, and it almost looks a little juvenile, but the kind of sketchiness of the illustrations adds some like reality and groundedness to the work, so it ends up feeling very lived in, and I really liked it. Again, in this one there's a lot of fun secondary characters. I really liked the princess, and I liked the other side characters as well. They're really fun. And I also really like that there's kind of an overarching mystery of her figuring out her identity and this war between the humans and fairies, and it all meshed up together really well. And the romance is also very wholesome. So there's that one. I ended up giving this one an 85. What it lacks in nuance, it kind of brings it makes up for in warmth and sincerity. So the third book that I'm going to talk about is What My Mother and I Don't Talk About, which is a collection of nonfiction essays written by various authors about their relationships with their mothers. Now, as with any essay collection, you're going to get some essays that you resonate more with and therefore have an inherent bias towards, and other stories that don't stick with you as much. And this is obviously the same for me while I was reading this. There were definitely a couple of stories that really stuck out to me, but the rest of them kind of missed the point, because there would be so much build up and then the story would just stop, and I just wanted more. But I think there were like 4 out of 5 stories out of 15 that really stuck with me. Some of the ones I really liked was Mother Tongue by Carmen Maria Machado. This is about the author's estrangement with her mother and kind of the complicated relationship that she has formed. And the other one was Her Body / My Body by Naomi Muhawira. This one was about her relationship with her mother, who has bipolar disorder. And this one was really interesting because it really talks about how she is trying to reconcile living in her mother's reality and allowing her mother to have her reality while still setting the boundaries that she needs to live a fulfilling life. So those kinds of stories, there were a lot of like nuance and subtlety to it. And then a lot of the other ones I felt like were more focused on the stylizing of the writing instead of the actual, relationship with their mother. So there was that one. I ended up giving that one, I think, an 85 because most of the stories were just okay to me, except for the 4 or 5 standout ones. Now my second favorite thing that I read this month is SubZero, which is another webcomic. This one was super fanfiction-y and I loved it. This one is about 2 opposing kingdoms. Both of them actually are descended from dragons, and the Blue Kingdom, this one has kind of been suffering under war, and the Red Kingdom is a lot more prosperous. And so in an effort to save her people, Clove, the princess of the Blue Kingdom, agrees to marry, I think his name is Kylo. Won't be as much war, and they can all live happily ever after. I thought, again, this, just from the summary itself, you can already tell this one is super fanfiction-y, and it is, but I didn't mind it in this one. I think it's because it kind of reminded me of my days on Tumblr, and where I would furiously reblog every single gif and every single angle of the couple that I was shipping, and for some weird reason it brought me back to those days, and in a loving way. And the artwork in this one is definitely more reminiscent of more traditional manga than Suitor Armor. And of course there's a plethora of romance tropes in this one, like the love-struck bodyguard, close encounters, person gets injured and I have to put a band-aid on him, very cute, sassy sister. There's also like a magical connection with each other. It's just got every like romance trope under the moon, but it's also integrated in a way that's A+ wish fulfillment, and the artist is a very talented artist, and she's just really good at drawing the gravity of a situation. She's really good at drawing landscape, and she's really good at drawing lighting and facial expressions, and it just makes you feel the gravity of whatever emotion the character is feeling, and it's just so cute. And there are some like questionable like moments of our main hero, and of course those are not okay, but again, it's part of the I'm not saying it's just a part of the fan fiction, because that makes it seem like I'm excusing it, but the power imbalance is obviously not as present or present at all, because I like that the artist makes a real effort at keeping the power balance equal between the two characters. Like, just because she's marrying into this kingdom, it doesn't mean that she loses all her power, right, as you would expect in this kind of story. And I actually really appreciated that, and I really appreciated that they both had their own separate journeys to follow, and they both had their own struggles to overcome, and there were a lot of colorful secondary characters that kind of filled in the gaps, so you're not just following this main couple. So I really like this one. I'm gonna keep following it. If you have any good webcomic recommendations, please send them my way, because I'm obsessed with them. So there's SubZero. I ended up giving SubZero like an 88. And then the last one I'm going to talk about, my favorite book that I read in January and February, is Jade War. Jade War is the second book in the Greenbone saga, the first one being Jade City. Now, Jade City, if you don't know, is about this concept of people who can harness jade and they get specific powers from that jade, like strength or deflection and things like that. But it mainly focuses on two clans, the No Peak clan and the Mountain clan, and this kind of Godfather-esque mafia conflict between the two. But at its heart, it's really an intimate family drama following these characters and their roles within the clan. And the second book I liked so much more than the first one. I think that it became so much more focused, and the characters that we really liked in the first book got a lot more screen time to really flesh out their motivations and their characters. But at the same time that these characters were getting more development, the world was also getting bigger, and you get to learn about these different islands and these different countries, and Kekon's, the main country's, role in the geopolitical atmosphere of this world. And that's something I also really liked. I really loved learning about all the different cultures and how our characters are navigating this kind of new world that they live in. The action is just as spicy, and the Fonelli's writing has improved like tenfold. It's great, and I thought this was a really strong addition. I would say that sometimes the characters' actions are a little bit too rushed, and you kind of don't really understand like why they do it. And I'm not saying that you need to understand why a character needs to do something, but because a lot of the big decisions didn't have weight to it, kind of felt like the plot just kept going and going, and there wasn't really any real like climax to the story, which would have been nice. So for example, spoiler alert, but the part when Shay goes and tries to get an abortion, she literally made that decision like 2 seconds, and then it's kind of done. And I wish there had been a little bit more time to understand the gravity of her decision. So that was that. I ended up giving Jade War a 93, and I'm really excited for the third book. I think that if you were kind of lukewarm about Jade City, read Jade War. It's a lot better, and the world building is so wonderful as well. I could read a whole textbook on just the world. So yeah, there's that.